So over the past week, price action has actually been quite choppy. So my last trade was actually a whole week ago, because the reason being Bitcoin was close to bottoming out, but we needed some sort of confirmation of a stronger reversal. Right, so the first thing we're looking at was a close above 64,000 and also a break of structure by breaking above this previous swing high to form a higher high. However, the retrace into the 4-hour fair value gap didn't really give much of a reaction. Right? It was a pretty weakened reaction, and during the New York session that day, we saw how price went back down. So that's kind of the reason why I wasn't really entering into too many trades over this week, and why I think they're kind of choppy. It's just basically price being at a decision point, and basically not being certain whether it has bottomed out for a stronger reversal, or if it's just a lower high and continuation of a downtrend. So from what we can see so far, right, this 4-hour fair value gap gave a small reaction, but it has since broken down and flipped into resistance. So this is indicating still bearish order flow, basically meaning bearish trend and downside continuation. Right, and pretty much you can see since this low here at 68,600 was broken down, the market has been basically forming lower lows and lower highs. Right, so lower low here, here, and here. And then potential shift in market structure from breaking above this high, but not actually forming a higher high at this point here. So a bit ambiguous. That's why things have been a bit choppy, and currently it's still in a bearish order flow. So to set out my expectations for the next week, as long as price is unable to reclaim this blue box here, so with a close above 65,800, then we can perceivably see a drop all the way down to 59,000. So for the short term, we have basically this trend line here. Right, so what can happen is on the Monday weekly open, we have like a fake out pump and reversal back down. Right, so to break above the trend line, inducing long positions to enter on this trend line break, and following trapping all these breakout positions, you can see this probably downside continuation over the rest of the week. So looking at higher time frames, I think the weekly chart does present a pretty good perspective here. Right, so we have this weekly fair value gap. So if we see a break below 59,000 even momentarily, it's a fill of this weekly fair value gap. And we can see something similar playing out back in December and January. Right, so we had this sort of consolidation at mid 43,000, a bunch of lows here, and this weekly fair value gap. And in this 1 wick, we had this fill, run of the lows, and continuation to the upside. So we can probably have something pretty similar here. Right, so some choppiness maybe, downside continuation all the way to 59,000, and reversal. So that's the higher time frame picture. If we do see this sort of entry trigger, as in a sort of consolidation and wick below 59,000, strong buyback, it's a really good sign for entering into swing longs again and just holding it for a pretty long time. Right, so yeah, pretty much last week in the stream, projection was sort of bullish, didn't really play out that well. I think it was only on Sunday we saw some upside here, and then we tried to look for like entry triggers from this break of structure, but there was not much follow through. Formed a lower high, 4-hour fair value gap as a key level did not hold strongly enough, so that's why it invalidated the swing long plans for now. So looking at the sort of other top tickers we looked at last time. So we did project Solana to continue all the way to about 195, and it broke above the 200 psychological level before we saw this stronger rejection. So at this point, it's pretty reliant on what Bitcoin wants to do. So if we go with what we said about Bitcoin just then, as in a wick below 59,000, maybe consolidation before that, and then after that wick we get the sort of strong buyback and upside continuation, then we can probably see stronger movements from these large caps. But currently it's probably just sideways chop consolidation and hunt of stop losses. But pretty clear you can see lower highs being formed, bearish order flow as well, because this 4-hour fair value gap is being held as resistance, whereas the 4-hour bullish fair value gap is not holding as support. Right, so that's the meaning of order flow. So looking at INJ, we were looking for a confirmation of this range breakout last week. So like a hunt of local sell stops, strong buyback, and confirmation of a range breakout. But we can see that this did not follow through. So this range breakout simply turned into a deviation. So for where INJ is currently at, it's at a potential reversal zone here. So it can be one of the first tickers we look at if we get the entry trigger for long positions on Bitcoin. But for where it's at right now, probably no longs until we get what we want to see on Bitcoin. Right, so it can go below 31.98 or even lower. It's just basically want to see what Bitcoin does next week. And pretty similar story with AVAX as well, like same thing with Solana. So very strong, forming higher highs as long as Bitcoin was looking sort of bullish. And at this point where Bitcoin is going sideways and consolidating, then it's following the same sort of behavior, and that makes it less worthwhile to trade because we can see how many wicks there are, no follow through on either direction. So yeah, basically we can see like a hunt and reversal either way, but for now no certain projection on AVAX until Bitcoin makes its decision. But you can sort of see like the behavior of these large caps in terms of how they move. So last weekend, I think on Sunday, was my AVAX long position call, and that was in confluence with the sort of Bitcoin behavior of sweeping lows and seeing strong buyback. Right, so we can sort of see the behavior of going back down to range lows, sweeping out the sort of sell stops near the range lows, and then sort of seeing the strong buyback to form a new high. And I used the standard deviation Fibonacci extension levels to determine my exit point over here, and that was near the top. So definitely timing of your trades matter quite a bit, not just the price that you enter at. So yeah, I'm happy to look at any altcoins you guys have on your watch lists. Just throw them in main chat or the live stream chat. Yep, so looking at Ondo first. Yep, so definitely quite strong over the past week. Question regarding starting position on AVAX. Right, so to make it clear, what I mean about AVAX is that there's no really super worthwhile position to take whilst it's still consolidating sideways. The sort of entry trade opportunities has already passed from last week, so we pretty much just need to wait for an entry trigger and a stronger reversal sign from Bitcoin before we can sort of see like these large caps being worthwhile to trade again, making like sort of more expansive movements. Right, so large caps like AVAX, Solana, Link, maybe INJ, like those sort of tickers really only see expansive moves when Bitcoin is more certain, not when it's sort of at its decision point and consolidating. Right, so for Ondo, it definitely looks quite strong. Retracing right now, and for a re-entry, you can probably look for an entry from 0.63. So pretty much what you want to see is retracement down to the level and seeing some sort of signs of buyback on lower time frames. Right, buyback as in sort of bullish market structure. So maybe on the 15-minute time frame, so forming higher highs. But pretty much just have this level marked out as the key level. So 0.6273. So looking at Gala next, so it's part of the gaming sector of coins, so they tend to move together, and in sort of bullish conditions we see money flowing from one sector to another. So the main ones we're looking at right now are the sort of large caps like AVAX and Solana with a lot of activity on them. AI sectors like FET, RNDR, and Ocean, and then gaming sector like Gala, Engine Coin, Mana, and Sandbox, something like that. So what we can see probably is outflows from the gaming sector until it reaches the sort of retracement point, and we can look for another entry. So these sort of charts where it pumps a lot and then starts going down slowly, it's not really my favorite to trade. But if we look at YGG as a sort of example, this is another gaming sector coin. It's called Yield Games or something, and these sort of like gradual movements down can sort of suddenly pop as well. So basically it's not a particularly high probability trade, but it's fairly good risk to reward. So looking at this sort of fractal, right, we just want to see like points where the reversal sort of makes sense. So perhaps like a breaker block, so previous resistance turned into support. Right, you can use fib retracements. Right, so mainly the 61.8 to 70.5 golden pocket zone. So if we do the same with Gala, right, so anchor from the swing low, preceding the pump to the peak. Yeah, we can see it already retraced to the golden pocket. Sort of like strong pop, but not as strong as YGG. So yeah, at this point it's probably likely that the upside move for this is over, so you don't want to be stuck in it long and hold all the way down. So this applies to probably most of the other gaming sector coins as well. So looking at Casper next. So it's another sort of like price action movement where it's a large pop and slow movement downwards. So for those, right, it's just trying to mark out support resistance levels and using Fibonacci retracement levels for a potential entry point. So pretty similar thing here as well. If you entered from 0.135, it's looking fairly decent. Just want to make sure basically doesn't go below your entry point again, because your entry point is pretty much the level it needs to hold to continue upwards. But yeah, we do have these sort of bunch of equal highs here, relative equal highs. So it's a good sort of upside target. So pretty much we want to see a pump above these highs here and watch for a reaction subsequently. So if it's just a sort of price action where it only momentarily breaks above and then just goes back down with a lot of momentum, that's for a sign to just close out the position, right? It's a false breakout, not a sustained breakout. And usually with false breakouts, what happens is it only holds above for like 1 or 2 candles. Could consolidate a bit, but usually it goes back down with a lot of momentum and seeks liquidity on the other side. So these equal lows here. So let's have a look at some other sectors and see what's going on with them. So RNDR, I think, definitely had its movement from the AI conference, speculations about like future partnerships and things like that. Conference is now over, so you can sort of see the consequence of that, right? So pump before the conference and then sell the news. And it's pretty much almost a full retracement, and it's back down to the range lows. So when a coin is in a sort of ranging state, what you can do is use the fixed range volume profile. And what it does is basically help you mark out the point of control of the range, as well as the value area high and value area low. Point of control refers to the price points where there's been the highest amount of volume being traded, and those generally act as support and resistance. Value area high is this dotted blue line, value area low is this dotted blue line. And pretty much how you use those is if price is below the value area low, you can look for long positions by going down to the lower time frames and seeing any of your entry models, something like a break of structure or bullish order flow on lower time frames. Right, so for INDR itself, we just wait for price to go back to the value area low again and see if we can catch a long scalp. So INDR is generally quite strong, moves on its own, but with the hype sort of over, it can follow Bitcoin a bit more closely. So that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, so we can sort of see how these sort of sector coins move very like in a very similar way. So this looks pretty similar to RNDR. So it's the same sort of thing. In ranging environment, we use the volume profile. Right, and you can see prices actually just a bit below the value area low. So presuming that this range is able to hold, it does mean that we probably have long opportunities over the next week. But yeah, just one thing to note about like sort of trading coins stuck in a range. It does require quite a bit of patience because like we can't really confidently predict when it will actually break out. It can just keep going sideways for the whole week and then suddenly pop out of nowhere in the next week. So these sort of trades are best for lower leverage, lower amount, wider stop losses and just more patience. If you are looking for like a more immediate movement, you can pretty much just do a comparison of relative strength between altcoins. Right, so in terms of relative strength, you just want to see like bullish market structure and bullish order flow, and compare it to like coins stuck in the range, and you can sort of clearly see the sort of relative strength between them. Alright, so to sort of give you an example of this, what you sort of want to look for is basically like some sort of strength, right? So like ignoring resistance levels, respecting support levels, right? Respecting the fair value gaps, and continuing upwards. And in these sort of trades, right, you can see it's broken past the resistance without much of a problem, bullish order flow, and you don't have to hold the trade for much time at all before it breaks upwards. Only issue with that is it kind of only presents itself mainly when Bitcoin is strong, not when Bitcoin is sort of also bearish and going sideways. So looking at SNX, right, and actually this is a pretty good example of a coin showing relative strength to others. Right, you can see this coin sort of ignoring bearish fair value gaps, right, ignoring resistance levels and continuing to move up, whereas the other coins are sort of stuck in a range, not forming any higher highs or breaking any resistance levels. So these are the sort of coins that can present pretty good opportunities. But just in terms of if it has topped out, it's pretty close, I think. We have the -2, -2.5 extension levels at 4.54 to 4.72, so potentially it can go just a bit higher to there and sort of see a stronger retracement from there. But I can sort of see it's very choppy currently, so entry point will be based on lower time frames. Stop loss will be pretty wide, so the risk to reward isn't too great. But yeah, to conclude, pretty much it looks stronger than other coins, but it's probably pretty close to being topped out. So there's not a super clear trading opportunity or setup on it so far. Another sector we can look at is meme coins as well. So things like Doge, Shib, Floki, and Pepe coin. Let's have a quick look. So yeah, it just looks like outflows, in my opinion, to another sector. But with these sort of meme coins, it can pop quite suddenly. So again, what you can do is using fib retracement levels and looking for a reaction from the golden pocket. So looking at Sui next. So it does kind of look like it's perhaps a range breakout. So the range as in range high here and range lows here. So using the volume profile again. So volume profile can help with sort of range breakout trades as well. You just want to see price being able to hold and reclaim above the value area highs of this dotted blue line here. We have a 4-hour bullish order block here, which seems to be where it's retracing to. So for long setups, what you want to see, retrace to the order block and strong buyback, being able to reclaim above this value area high. Then we have a higher probability of this being a range breakout. Right? Otherwise, if there is no reaction, unable to reclaim this level, then it's a failed range breakout, and it's going to look very similar to INJ. So failed breakout, and then retracement all the way back down to the range lows. Right, so the opportunity for Sui is looking for a range breakout trade by watching for a reaction from this 4-hour order block. Otherwise, it's the same thing, failed range breakout and retracement all the way back down to the range lows. Alright, is there anything else? I'll check main chat real quick as well. Okay, so Bitcoin Cash and ICP, sure. Bitcoin Cash actually looks a lot better than most altcoins, actually. And that's just due to the bullish market structure since 20th of March, so 4 days ago. So it's making high highs and high lows. It's respecting support levels, so it's respecting bullish fair value gaps. And it's ignoring bearish fair value gaps. Right, so definitely a sign of relative strength compared to most alts that we just looked at today. So yeah, it's looking quite good for long positions. Let's see if it's reached its upside target. So previous highs at 476 gave an initial rejection, and then if we use the fib extensions, yeah, it looks decent, I guess. So it's just a sort of more shallow retracement compared to a complete reversal. So it does look quite promising to continue to 512 over the next week, I think. And it's currently in 4-hour fair value gap. So we can look for trade entries right here. We just go to lower time frames and see if there's a sort of entry there as well. Yeah, I think it's pretty good. So setup would be something like this for now. Stop loss below the impulse move candle, right? The candle that formed the fair value gap and was responsible for much of the upside movement. So invalidation point is price going below that. And the target is the level 4 extension and probably the previous highs here. Previous high from early March. Yep, so looking good so far. You can definitely treat that as a sort of trade setup. Can enter now, though it's the weekend. So perhaps maybe tomorrow. So looking at ICP next. So yeah, definitely some relative strength here as well compared to most altcoins. Right, so that's a good sign first as well. Also, another good sign is price breaking above these 4-hour EMAs and flipping them into support. So EMAs are dynamic support resistance levels. So one way to use them is to watch how price reacts to them and seeing if they can be flipped from from resistance into support, which seems to be the case here. We also have the EMA crossover and compression, as in the smaller EMAs like the 20 and 50 going above the larger EMAs like the 100 and 200. So the 20 EMA is the red line, orange is 50 EMA, and the blue one is 100, the gray one is 200. So you can definitely see this EMA crossover. Compression refers to the 4 EMAs moving together, and usually it's a pretty strong sign of a imminent expansion. Right, so we can keep it simple and just use the EMAs as our trade idea. Right, and it looks something like this. Right, so stop loss would be around here, below the EMAs, and then you just target the buy side liquidity, so the previous high from early March, and also the trendline liquidity right here. So ICP and Bitcoin Cash both have a pretty solid long setup right now, in my opinion. Yeah, maybe I looked at Solana, AVAX, INJ, RNDR already. So in summary, those sort of large cap coins, they are quite reliant on Bitcoin to make a decision to see any expansive moves. So we want to preferably see an entry trigger from Bitcoin before we really look for a swing setup on those little coins, right? So my trigger right now is just a wick down below 59,000 and strong buyback above that level next week. So once that happens, we can look at those coins again and see if there is an entry opportunity, right? So you can see, right, that like they all look pretty similar to Bitcoin. So there's not a lot of point to try trade them right now when Bitcoin is kind of consolidating and uncertain as well. Compared to something like ICP and Bitcoin Cash, right? Different market structure, valid bullish setup, right? Sort of going separate from most of the market and displaying strength relative to the other coins. So these are the sort of like market structure and price action movements you want to see. So looking at ARC M and then Polkadot next. So we don't have too much to work with here, to be honest. Yeah, so we have this 200 EMA as a dynamic level, so maybe you can have a long setup if it continues to hold, right? But with this sort of like price action movement where it's just non-stop up for a whole month and then just going slowly back down, there's not too much to work with there. And yeah, Polkadot I think is another coin that's like very reliant on Bitcoin. Pretty similar like sort of perspective to AVAX and Solana, but in my opinion it looks a bit worse because like the bearish market structure and order flow is a lot more pronounced on Polkadot in my opinion. And you can even see how like the 200 EMA on the 4-hour has flipped from support into resistance, right? So we can see here previously it gave it bounced from 9.4 all the way up to 10.4. And then now it lost the 200 EMA and it's acting as resistance again. So for a setup like this, it's probably a downside continuation trade setup. And you can enter shorts just based on how you trade. But again, these sort of large cap coins follow Bitcoin quite closely. So if we do get the entry trigger from Bitcoin wicking below 59k and seeing strong buyback, a coin like DOT can also see a very strong reversal as well. So yeah, I think I'll probably wrap it up soon. I'll check out Slurf and Pendle as well. I think Slurf is a pretty new coin. I saw a picture on Twitter about someone who bought the listing and was down like 50% almost right away. So it's a bit of a gamble, definitely, and it's not really something that I intend to trade. So not a lot to work with on the perpetuals chart, maybe the spot chart.
One thing you can say about Slurp is that it usually takes 3 days.
So Pendle is actually ranging for a while now, following its up only price movement. Alright, so just to give a perspective, Pendle was basically up only from October last year, and right now it's kind of in a ranging state, so it's important to keep that in mind. Don't get like too excited over these sort of green candles. So the same sort of logic applies for range trading, right? You use the volume profile tool to help you with these sort of range breakout setups, and you just want to see price being able to hold above the value area high, and then subsequently sort of like long entry method that you're familiar with. But right now it's in the range highs, so long positions does not present favorable risk to reward without any further confirmation. Looking at Algo next. Let's see. It's looking pretty similar to Bitcoin, I think. Except like, yeah, it looks a bit weaker here. Like it's already forming a local resistance at 0.256. So yeah, it probably just goes sideways for a while, I think. Yeah. If there's anything more to see about it, I'll post it in the watch lists, but nothing interesting right now. Sui and Solana I looked at previously before. So just a quick recap. Sui is the sort of range breakout possibility right now. So it needs to reclaim above the value area high at 1.68. Otherwise it's a failed breakout, and it'll probably just go all the way back down to the range lows, and it'll look something like this here on INJ. Solana, in summary, is following closely to Bitcoin, so same thing as AVAX, INJ, right? And yeah, we pretty much just look for a Bitcoin entry trigger, and then we can look at Solana, AVAX, and the other large caps to outperform. In terms of shorts right here, yeah, it's definitely a possibility. So I'll be looking for a sort of fake out on the weekly open tomorrow, something like this. and then if it rejects the highs, then we can look for a short down to down to new lows pretty much. Alright, cool. I think I'll wrap it up here. So keep in mind the wider market entry trigger. Most coins follow Bitcoin quite closely. Secondly, coins in the same sectors kind of move together as well. So watch for the sector movements as well. And in terms of all the coins that I looked at today, I'd say the most promising ones were Bitcoin Cash and ICP. So I'll be keeping an eye on that for a long entry, probably just for the short term. And then as for the other coins, it's basically just some further patience to see a valid setup be formed, some confirmation, and then we can look to enter the trade. So any updates on those sort of movements, I'll chuck it into watch lists. So regarding short positions on Sui, yeah, you can give it a try, I think. So let's check the risk to reward. Maybe something like this. You can short from the 4-hour bearish order block around 1.674, and then just target the lows. Yeah, it's not really a setup I personally take too often, because these can turn into range breakouts. Right, so what could happen, right, is the price completes its retracement down to the 4-hour bullish order block, and suddenly your short is just round tripped in a single candle. So that's just the danger that comes with shorting a potential range breakout, but certainly it does present some favorable risk to reward if you want to give it a shot. Okay, cool. So I'll wrap it up here. Thank you all for attending today. This will be potentially uploaded to YouTube. I'll put it into the video lessons channel if it is. And I'll be around for next week for new trading opportunities. So thanks everyone again for attending, and I'll see you next time.